Alright, so this weekend we get a brand new film in the A Quiet Place franchise. This one focuses on day one of the apocalypse. I got a chance to see it last Thursday. What did I think about it? Here's my review. Alright, so the Quiet Place franchise with me is a little bit different for me. On starters, it's special to me because this is a franchise that got me into horror. I remember back in 2020, I think it was my birthday, I finally got around to watching the trailer for Quiet Place 2, and I was blown away by it. I was literally obsessed with these movies. I watched the first one, didn't much like it. I'm not going to elaborate what I think about it now because I recently rewatched it. I'm having a ranking come up in the next couple of days. But I did watch that one, and then I watched number 2, liked 2. I liked 1, I just didn't think it was the best. So I never thought the movies were great rather. I always thought they were good. Always had something holding them back for it. But it's also my gateway into horror. They were the movies that got me into the horror genre, so they were kind of special to me. So when I know that when I saw the trailer for this movie, and I knew that they were making this movie, I was instantly intrigued because a Quiet Place movie centered on day one. There are plenty of stories to tell in this entire franchise, plenty of people to follow as they try to survive the apocalypse, and then the trailers absolutely blew me away. This was one of my most anticipated movies of 2024. It was my most anticipated besides Deadpool and Wolverine as of when I watched it, because I've already seen all of my other, quite a few of my other most anticipated movies. But yes, so here will be my review. What did you guys think about A Quiet Place Day 1? Tell me down below in the comment section. While you're down there, please make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and hit the bell. We're still at 174. Get to 200 by the middle of July. Special video coming for you guys. And with that said, let's get started talking about A Quiet Place Day 1. And the first thing you need to know right off the bat about this movie is that it is not what you think it's gonna be. It is not what you expect at all. And that can be a little jarring for some people, because for me, when we were going throughout the movie, there was stuff that I didn't quite like. And we'll move on to that when I talk about my problems with the movie. But it really felt like a completely different type of Quiet Place movie. What I expected out of this movie was an hour and 40-minute long chase movie where they're running from monsters in New York. What the movie gives to us is trying to explore the best in people in the middle of the apocalypse. And I'm gonna say this because it literally happens in like the first 2 seconds of the movie. I didn't know it going in, but it literally happened then. Our main character has cancer. And so, as you go throughout the movie, Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn, they kind of form a little relationship, a friendship relationship. It doesn't try to push the romance stuff, and I appreciate that, because that would just made it feel awkward. But it's about their relationship and trying to do the best thing in a hard time in the middle of this massive apocalypse world. So some emotional sequences didn't quite work for me, and we'll talk more about that in the negatives again. But when we get to probably the last 20-25 minutes of the movie, there's this emotional sequence in a bar that really just pushes it through, and it made the movie feel like if it was only just like a short film of only like 30-minute short film, and we have that sequence and the emotional sequences in the entire ending, I feel like it would have worked much better, because that's when the movie really works. When it has that final emotional sequence, it really, really works. Every time up to that movie, I was like, I don't care about these characters, I don't really know. But then when we got to that, it pushes home the point through of people caring for each other in the middle of the apocalypse, and that's a good story to tell. And it really works once we get to the final 25-20 minutes, and that's the thing that sticks in my head, because the Quiet Place movies are very emotional films. In the first movie, you get the family dynamic with the daughter and the father and all of that. In the second film, I haven't rewatched that one, but you get emotional dynamics in there with the newborn baby and all of that. But in this movie, it's a very different kind of emotional push, and I think it really works once we get to the final 20 minutes of the movie. The monster chase sequences are pretty great. The beginning of the movie, and let's get this straight, I was pretty disappointed with the first hour of the film. The last 40 minutes, I think, really work, and especially those chase sequences. There's a longer, I'd say 15-minute chase sequence where you're going through the office buildings and you're going into the subway. That was great. You finally get to see the monsters in their full form. They look fantastic as always, and it's really thrilling, especially the underwater sequence. If you don't know me, which you probably don't, I don't like going in water where I can't see underneath me. It's just kind of a phobia of mine. I just don't like it. I mean, I'll do it. It just makes me feel all weird. But going underwater and knowing a monster's underneath me, that's what really works about the first Quiet Place movie, that underwater sequence. But there's another one here. It really works. The chase sequences are great. The monsters look spectacular. The cast, Lupita Nyong'o, Joseph Quinn, pretty good. This is a movie where you probably could have hired almost anyone and tell the final 20-25 minute sequences, because it's a movie where you gotta whisper, it's a lot of physical performance, it's a lot of walking through the city, and I didn't fully feel these characters come alive until that final 20-25 minutes, and it's really good, again, really good in that final 20-25 minutes, and because the performances really elevate. Lupita Nyong'o is a great actress. Joseph Quinn is an up-and-comer. He's recently casted as Johnny Storm. I'm interested to see what he does. But for the majority of the movie, I feel like you probably could have casted anyone for Joseph Quinn's part, especially. I find Lupita Nyong'o was pretty great in this movie because, you know, she has to pull all the heartstrings, she has cancer, she has to act like that, but Joseph Quinn's character just kind of stumbles along, and it's not till, like, again, the final 20-25 minutes that you fully get his acting chops, but he's great in those final minutes. Quite a bit of the movie, again, is just walking through the city of New York, so again, we'll talk about that here in a minute. So there are emotional sequences in the end that really, really work. There are great monster chase sequences, and there's a story to tell here. It tells a story about people doing good in a post-apocalyptic world, and it's a good story to tell. But I feel like the movie was just a little disappointing. It had way too many issues. Overall, I think it was solid, especially after those, after the last 40 minutes. It really got entertaining and had the emotional sequences, but first hour was just really disappointing. So let's start talking about my negatives. And I think the main one here is I found it very difficult to care about these characters, because this is a movie where you get like the first 15 minutes, we're introduced, we know Lupita Nyong'o's character has cancer, or it's never really specified what disease she has. I'm gonna assume it's cancer because it's terminal. But, so we learn that. We get a couple good sequences, great sequences actually, and then we're just instantly thrown in. And so we don't ever get to meet Joseph Quinn's character. Lupita Nyong'o has cancer, and that's the uniqueness, because the whole movie is about her trying to get pizza because you know she's gonna die. And so it's her character is compelling enough. But when we get the sequences when her and Joseph Quinn are just sitting talking about her backstory, I found it hard to care, because I'm here for the movie to see people get chased around by giant aliens. And then that first hour, we get a couple sequences of that, but they're pretty short. They're pretty short, and then we're back to walking in the city, and then you're sitting in an apartment, each other talking to each other about your emotional backstories. And I don't find that compelling, because I just found it hard to care. Because you're in the middle of this apocalypse, and we're sitting down talking about our backstories. I thought that was a pretty weird direction to head towards, and I just found it very, very odd inside of this movie that we would decide to spend so much time with these characters when really all we needed was that one sequence in the end to wrap it all together, but we spent way too much time dragging, and that's a big problem because the pacing doesn't really work in this movie. Because, again, you just have all these walking scenes, and then you'd get the monster attacks, but then you'd get, like, more walking through New York for, like, 5 minutes, and then you'd get another monster attack, then you get a long sequence of people just sitting down talking, and it kind of felt really draggy layer in the beginning of the movie, because I was all here for the monster action, and when I don't get that much monster action, I just didn't find it as compelling as a story. So the pacing didn't work. It made it very hard to care about the characters until the very end, and it's just very odd the direction that they decided to go inside the story, where it roped around and became a good story to tell in the end. Just didn't quite work in the very beginning. I know this is a little bit of an odd place to go, but the cat was really weird. Once again, it's a cat. They're adorable. The cat really got some emotional moments in the end, believe it or not. But it felt weird because there's no way when a monster is getting up close in your face and about to eat you, there's no way the cat's not purring. The cat's not gonna hiss at it or start meowing or do anything. You would be dead if you had a cat. You'd be dead if you had any animal in this situation, because they'd make a lot of noise. They wouldn't know what's going on. So it really didn't make sense that the cat would be that quiet and save everyone's life. It was kind of odd. Again, it's not that big of an issue. It didn't bother me, but overall thinking about it, it's just like, okay, there's no way that would have happened in real life. Of course, there's no way giant human-eating aliens from space would crash land on Earth with the sound thing and eat us all. But that's besides the point. Hey, I forgot to mention this in the video, but I had another negative with the film that I'm going to discuss here real quick, and that's that I don't feel like the sound gimmick worked in this film. And what I mean by that is, in the first two films, they have so many cool ways to use sound. This film, I don't think really worked in that element. I mean, you're in New York, one of the loudest cities on planet Earth, and like Lupita Nyong'o gets knocked out, and then everybody knows, hey, we gotta be quiet. These things are attracted to sound. There is a couple cool things, helicopters passing by, throwing a rock at a car to attract that, but I feel like with everything being loud, I feel like the sound element could work much better than it actually did, and I just kind of felt disappointed with the way that the sound element in New York City worked. Alright, back to regular studio Zach. So anyways, yeah, I do think it has some pacing issues. It made it very hard to care about the characters, but I did think at the last 40 minutes it turned really entertaining. We had some great emotional moments near the end, and I really thought the final scene really kind of roped it around to be pretty good. And I'd go as far to say this is a really good movie, not great. Because yeah, I did enjoy the movie, especially the last 40 minutes, but that first hour kind of was difficult to get through, the pacing issues, all that. So it's a movie that you're not really going to expect what it's going to be. You go into this movie from the trailer, you're a 40-minute long chase movie, but it's not. It's a character study, and whether that works for the best or worse, for me, it worked kind of right there in the middle. So, A Quiet Place Day 1, while it's got its moments, it's got great moments in the last 40 minutes. The first hour made it very hard to care about the characters, and the pacing issues was diabolical. I thought the movie roped around to be pretty good in the last 40 minutes of the movie, and that's why A Quiet Place Day 1, I'm going to give a B+ to. And I think you should definitely see this one in a theater. Just be warned, it's not what you expect. So there will be a Quiet Place movie ranking here in the next couple of days. Stay tuned for that. I got 7 movies to watch in the Pixar franchise, and I'll have that tier list out to you next week before I leave to go on a mission trip. And then I'm going to have a Bear Season 3 review, Bear Seasons ranking, July movies ranked. There's a lot of videos coming out next week because it's the middle of July, it's the beginning of July. We got a lot of stuff coming next week. But with that said, thank you guys for clicking on this video. Comment down below, what did you guys think of A Quiet Place Day 1? And with that said, subscribe to the Army. Peace out.